I'm James Thornton. While I was in graduate school pursuing my master's degree in chemistry, I met Emma. I fell in love with her right away. It took her about 6 months to feel the same, just before she earned her master's in art history, but she did. Neither of us had much experience, but as far as I was concerned, our intimate life was great, and she never complained. We married less than a year after her graduation and found jobs in the same city. Emma taught at a community college, and I worked part-time at a state university while also consulting for a science firm. After 3 years of marriage, I left the university to work full-time as a consultant, specializing in explosives. One of my clients was the federal government. During the birth of our first daughter, Lily, my work required a lot of travel. I knew it was hard on Emma, but I suggested quitting and taking a full-time teaching job at a local college, which had recruited me several times. Emma appreciated the financial benefits of my job and encouraged me to continue. Her motto was, "I can survive. I'm self-sufficient." Even after our second daughter, Claire, was born 2 years later, my travel continued. Once again, I suggested a career change, but Emma insisted I stick with consulting, especially with the added responsibilities of raising 2 children. When our daughters turned 5 and 7, my schedule eased, and Emma returned to work. She got an administrative job at a local university, affiliated with the liberal arts college. I didn't fully understand her reasons, but it didn't bother me, as it made her happy. Emma also developed an interest in photography, and we now have over a dozen albums documenting our lives with the kids. During this time, Emma became interested in learning other languages, especially Italian. She traveled for work, often to Chicago, for meetings with benefactors, visiting professors, and the Art Institute. She also visited Gina, a college friend who had been an Italian exchange student and was now living in Chicago. When our children were 8 and 10, global terrorism made my expertise highly valuable to the federal government. I was recruited for a 2-year assignment that required more travel. Before accepting, I discussed it with Emma, as it would mean even more time away from home. Emma encouraged me to accept, saying she and the girls would miss me, but they would manage. Unfortunately, my assignment meant I missed 2 consecutive Christmases, when Claire was 9 and 10 and Lily was 11 and 12. It was heartbreaking. Emma took the girls to visit Gina in Chicago during that time. I stayed in contact with them daily, and they seemed content. Gina's relatives, including kids around our daughter's ages, were also there. After 2 years working on the terrorism issue, I returned to full-time consulting with minimal travel. Emma continued to travel occasionally, mostly to Chicago. I took on all the parental duties for Claire and Lily when she was away, though sometimes the girls traveled with her. It's common for daughters to become closer to their mothers, and while I had a good relationship with Claire and Lily, they rarely confided in me or sought my advice, unlike with Emma. This didn't bother me, except for one thing. They never shared details of their trips to Chicago with Emma. They weren't withdrawn, but they often changed the subject when asked about it. Just before Claire turned 18 and went to college out of state, and Lily was a junior at another out-of-state school, Emma went through a difficult time. I noticed her tears on several occasions and asked her about it. She said it was due to becoming an empty nester and suggested a shopping trip to Chicago with the girls. The trip was planned quickly and involved several long phone conversations with Gina in Italian. Since I didn't speak Italian, I trusted Emma's explanation, despite her unusually emotional behavior in the days leading up to their departure. When Emma returned after 3 days, she seemed more positive, but not entirely back to normal. However, I was surprised by the small number of items they brought back from the shopping trip. When I asked, I was told some things would be shipped later, including items sent directly to the girls' college addresses. I noticed a positive change in our intimate life, which had never been problematic except during my absences. After Claire left for college, things improved between Emma and me. I believed it was because we were growing closer as empty nesters, enjoying more time together. Then, something happened that changed everything. I collected more details from her, knowing that pressing further would only cause more pain. Then I revealed the second purpose of my visit. I expressed my hope to reconcile with her mother based on the information she had shared. But I needed one more thing for clarity. I asked both of us to submit DNA samples to confirm whether she was my biological daughter. Clara cried, objecting, insisting that I was her only father. I know that I'm your father, I reassured her, but I need to know whether I'm your biological father, too. Despite her protests, she eventually agreed. I handed her the sealed envelope addressed to the lab, with instructions to send the results to both Clara and me. I drove her back to campus and watched as she dropped the envelope in an express mailbox. When we hugged goodbye, she begged me to forgive her mother and make things work. I told her I couldn't promise that, as I didn't lie like her mother did, but I acknowledged that Clara had done her part to improve the chances it would work. I reminded her not to tell anyone about our conversation until the 19th at the earliest. She assured me with a smile, then hesitated before mentioning one more thing. She explained that Mom and Lucy would be attending an exhibition of Salvatore's works in Chicago on my birthday, some of which featured photographs of Maria. She conveyed Maria's apology for the timing, but explained that the exhibition was necessary to display the works inherited from Salvatore. Maria wanted Clara to join them, but Clara had too much schoolwork. I smiled, casually replying, I know. Thanks for being honest. After another hug, Clara left. Once she was out of sight, I cried, realizing that my relationship with Lucy, too, was dead, just like the one with Maria. I hadn't yet decided if I could salvage things with Clara. Unbeknownst to her, I had recorded our entire conversation in the car. There was one detail Clara didn't know that would cause her pain. Part of my plan for segment 4. The DNA samples I had submitted, supposedly from me, actually belonged to an Italian janitor who worked in my office building. I had been friendly with him over the years and promised to pay for his ancestry test as a birthday gift. He didn't even ask why I needed 3 swabs instead of 1. The janitor's DNA revealed that he was more than 80% Italian, with some Eastern and Western European ancestry, which delighted him. But the reason I used his DNA instead of mine was because I wanted everyone to suffer. Since Salvatore was Italian, I wanted the DNA results to suggest that he was Clara's biological father, and possibly Lucy's as well. I crossed my fingers, hoping Clara wouldn't spill the beans. I checked in with her on the 16th and 18th, and she assured me she hadn't. I was confident the secret was safe. Around 11 p.m. on the 16th, Roberto Mariani emailed me photos from the Romano exhibition. Viewing them left me more devastated than I had anticipated. I trembled as I sobbed. The series of 10 photos, which grew larger as they progressed, revealed stunningly provocative images. The first 2 pictures broke me down. They featured 2 girls in the background of a photo of a woman who was unmistakably Maria. Though the girls' faces were blurred, I could tell from their hair, the Christmas gifts they received, and their relative sizes that it was Lucy and Clara around the ages of 9 and 11. The next 3 photos showed Maria in increasingly less clothing, until, in the final one, she was completely exposed. The second series started with a similar photo, but this time the girls were slightly older, with the last 4 progressively more risque. The second to last photo was incredibly suggestive, and the final image implied that Maria had just been intimately involved. After throwing up, drinking some ginger ale, and crying for a while, I looked at the photos again. If they hadn't broken my heart, I'd have to admit that the last 2 were probably the finest examples of their kind I had ever seen. I read Roberto's report, which confirmed their value, at a minimum of $300,000, possibly $500,000. The second-to-last photo alone could fetch $125,000 to $175,000. I contacted Gina, who put me in touch with the owner, as per Salvatore's will. Maria said the photos weren't for sale because they were priceless, and she would not sell the 4 in which she was fully exposed until after her death. I wouldn't want my husband to see me like that while I'm alive, she said, laughing as she added, especially my husband. I sent the recording of Clara's words and Roberto's photos to my attorney, Gail. She called me at 7:30 a.m. on the 17th, and I conveyed that my petition for divorce was entirely justified, citing infidelity.